UN backed a no-fly zone over Libya, but China has said Libya's sovereignty must be respected, suggesting it may veto a resolution. As you heard there, rebel leaders in Libya say Colonel Gaddafi has 72 hours to stop the attacks and step down. Lawrence Lee reports now on the secret meetings between Gaddafi and the opposition and the potential way out of Libya's crisis.
For a man with such a strong line in bombast and exaggeration, the suggestion of Gaddafi making a deal on the quiet which would allow him to escape Libya unscathed is startling. It's claimed he raised the suggestion on Sunday when opposition forces were on the road to Sirte, his hometown, and before the Libyan army had retaken the town of Bin Jawad and pushed the rebels back. According to AlJazeera sources in Libya, Gaddafi's main demands were aimed far less at ensuring the future of his country and far more at making sure that he and his family could continue living in luxury. So it's alleged that Gaddafi wanted assurances that he wouldn't be prosecuted for crimes against humanity, that he and his family would be able to leave to a country of his choosing, and that he would retain assets, many of which have been seized in countries from Europe to Japan. The message back from Benghazi to Gaddafi was equally specific: end the bombing and get out of Libya within 72 hours.
We see no objection in ending bloodshed among the Libyans in return for two key demands. First, Muammar Gaddafi stopping air and inland bombardment of Zawiya, Misrata and Ras Lanuf. Second, his immediate departure within 72 hours. And in return, we guarantee that he will not be prosecuted domestically.
What prompted Gaddafi to fold in this way is unclear, since his troops have been gaining ground. Perhaps as well as fears about prosecution, he's becoming concerned about the growing pressure from the international community to raise the threat of a military response.
We've got NATO, as we speak, consulting in Brussels around a wide range of potential options, including potential military options, in response to the violence that continues to take place inside of Libya.
There may be many ordinary people in Benghazi who see Gaddafi's demands as outrageous, and perhaps the authorities too. But equally, if Gaddafi were to leave the country, they could surely still claim an historic victory, and the authorities in Benghazi are certainly concerned about saving lives as well. Inevitably, Libyan state TV has denied an offer even being made. The next move now surely belongs to Gaddafi. One final point: how Gaddafi's own soldiers feel about the prospect of being abandoned may prove interesting as well. Lawrence Lee, AlJazeera.
Hoda Abdul Hamid is in Benghazi for us, which is where the main opposition National Council is based. Hoda, we were speaking to Mustafa Abdul Jalil earlier, the head of the council, and he says that they've made an offer to Gaddafi, and the offer is you've got 72 hours to go.
Yes, indeed. And he also added to that the violence must stop immediately. I do really think that there's some sort of realization that things can go really bad if they continue the way they are for both the government and the National Council here. The military offensive in both directions keeps on being at a deadlock, and then someone has an upper hand and then the other one gets the upper hand. It's a very complicated situation, and in the background of all this, there's a lot of chaos settling into the cities. There's lawlessness. It's very difficult to have people at the front fighting while leaving the cities uncovered. So I think it's also in the interest of the National Council to try to find a way out of the situation as quick as possible. Now, the National Council says that if he resigns within 72 hours, and if the violence stops, then they will drop their charges of Gaddafi being prosecuted. And I think what they mean exactly by that is actually they will ask the International Criminal Court to defer the investigation by 12 months. There is a provision in there that allows that to happen if the UN Security Council asks for that, and they can keep on deferring that year after year if the UN Security Security Council renews that demand. I think that would be a solution that probably would help both sides. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. We are told that Muammar Gaddafi is making his way to the hotel in Tripoli where all the journalists are, and that he will be making a statement shortly.
OK, well, we look forward to hearing that. I mean, when I was speaking to Jalil, there was obviously a lot of cloak and dagger about these negotiations and who exactly was speaking to who and who approached who first. I mean, what is your sense of how far along these negotiations are, and could we see some kind of culmination in the short term?
And I mean, as you said, it's very difficult to get the full picture. But from what we understand, 2 delegates from Tripoli would have made their way to Libya and had to Benghazi, rather, I'm sorry, and had been holding these sort of secret talks with the National Council here, mainly with Mustafa Abdul Jalil. And that happened over the past few days. Now, one member of the council suggested to me, and I really can't tell you if that is true or not because we never found out the details, that was all based on the Hugo Chavez proposal that had been reported about a week ago now, but no one found out the details about it. He does point to the fact that since that proposal was made or announced by Chavez, Saif al-Islam, the son of Gaddafi, has been talking all the time about a breakthrough, about a hand being reached out to the opposition, and it could be that what he was talking about. We really don't get the full picture at the moment. The only thing we know are the demands made by the Gaddafi side and the response of the National Council.
OK, Hoda, thanks for that. Hoda Abdulhamid in Benghazi there. Well, Ibrahim Shakir is with me in the studio from the Brookings Centre here in Doha. Welcome once again. You know, when we look at these talks going on, it does seem that there's suddenly been this flurry of negotiations between the regime and the National Council. What's your assessment of what's going on here and how firm these proposals are?
Well, I think there is a ground to assume that these negotiations are credible, and offers, if they are made and they're accepted, things will be possibly applicable, and al-Gaddafi can follow on this. However, we have to keep in mind that Abdul Jalil is not in a position to make long-term commitments about what is going to happen after Gaddafi, or what is about the fate of Gaddafi if he leaves, because Abdul Jalil is not an elected president. Yes, there is a transitional government and the transitional council, and the transitional council should receive all the support, and it is receiving the support and the backing of the international community and many Libyans, whether it's inside Libya or outside. However, really, Abdul Jalil is not eligible to make these long-term commitments on the Libyan people because he's not elected in the first place. So imagine if, and there are so many, that those who were tortured during Gaddafi's time, how would they? Abdul Jalil doesn't have the right to give up on the rights.
Somebody has to make these steps because, as we've said before, Libya has no infrastructure of opposition in place. It has no unions. It has barely any. It doesn't have any independent NGOs. So, if not him, then who?
Yes. No. It's this is important to recognize and to understand the limitations on what Abdul Jalil can make. Abdul Jalil can make commitments on things that are taking place now, but it's on things on the long term, or the fate of Gaddafi, or what's going to happen in the post-Gaddafi. Abdul Jalil is really not in a position to